This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com. More indications today that TNA might soon be known as NXTNA. So we're seeing pictures like this float up. WWE promoting allegedly somebody from another promotion harder than they've ever promoted someone. It truly makes sense that they either have bought TNA or will be buying TNA because the library, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Mick Foley, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, all these people, not for to prevent Vince McMahon from buying it when his no compete ends, because he could probably take it and build it up if he decides to get back in the wrestling business. And also, NXT is on the CW network. So there's room now that Netflix is going to have Raw and SmackDown in all the countries but the US. I mean, and there's rooms in all these countries for something else, such as a WWE funded TNA. So I would say, and they're already airing Impact now on the TNA Plus streaming service that is run by Endeavor, the parent company of WWE. So either WWE just really wants to give this streaming service that's under their Endeavor brand a huge push, or they've bought TNA. By the way, they've fired almost everybody in management, seemingly, including the head of creative. So, and there's no events in TNA announced past the Tampa tapings in August. And Tampa, Orlando, not very far where NXT's base is. So we've seen TNA get to very low levels of interest. So this is interesting. This is kind of funny, but it also lends credibility that maybe Vince will start something up if they're so worried about it that they're going to buy TNA. But it's a good idea. It's made NXT more interesting. But I don't just think they're doing this out of the goodness of their heart, promoting another company's talent, because they have so many of their own talent that aren't over, particularly in NXT. Why would you waste valuable camera time on a talent that's not in your company? In other wrestling news, Kevin Kelly, who was working for AEW, feels that he was treated horribly by AEW and he wouldn't wish his treatment from AEW on his worst enemy. There's reports out that the Young Bucks and John Moxley make anywhere between $3 and $6 million. If Mercedes Moné is making $4.5 million, I guess I could believe that Moxley would be making 6. But again, those are unconfirmed reports, but it's not that far of a stretch. It's definitely believable, but funny that if he is making that much money, that they let him prioritize New Japan over AEW, if that's true. I mean, it's come out in various reports. Hasn't been reported by the major news sites, but we do know that guys like Okada, who has made a single difference in ratings or interest, Mercedes Moné has created some interest, 0 ratings or attendance difference, and Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay was main eventing Collision for its second lowest rating of the year last Saturday. NXT last night did a 0.24 rating. Okay, so I don't find Will Ospreay entertaining. I find him too acrobatic and leg slappish. But here's the funny thing: for how much they're paying Will Ospreay, Collision, which is like the second AEW show, did a 0.11 rating Saturday. NXT, the Development League, did a 0.24 rating. which was actually more than AEW Dynamite did as well. So this TNA gimmick, it's a good idea. NXTNA, I think it's an awful name too, but maybe who knows what's going to happen? Maybe there'll be an invasion. I don't know. I just think I've hated TNA ever ever the last semi-watchable era, and I'm not saying it was great creative. The reason why the Hogan era to me of TNA was semi-watchable was because of you had Hogan, Nash, Scott Steiner, Booker T, Scott Hall was in and out of there, AJ Styles. You had so much great talent. Abyss I always liked, who by the way works for WWE as an agent. There was so much good talent. I would still watch it, even though I thought the creative was horrible. The creative actually was decent. Uh, between around 2007ish when I worked with them, when I brought them to Canada for the first time, that was the best period I think overall of TNA. But ever since 2010ish, it's become absolute crap and completely unwatchable. I mean, they make Tessa Blanchard the men's champion under Scott D'Amore, who they fired a couple months ago finally, and then should they let her leave as still champion? Like that makes your title valueless. No wonder you averaged 200 fans last year. So I think it's great that WWE's looking like they're going to absorb them. That's just my opinion. Let's end this horrible TNA like the cockroach that will never die that somehow survives despite being like a god awful product. There's some good wrestlers in it, but overall the product is god awful, and a lot of the behind the scenes people, like their media guy that they had, who was terrible. Ross Foreman, just a complete awful. Why do you keep people that suck and fail? And when you're not profitable, at some point you should release people or get rid of people that are bad at their jobs, like their media people. Let's just keep this guy around. But anyways, that's just my opinion. Jimmy Lake, the I think that's a Dixie Carter era, 2014 16. The Dixie Carter era was better than the last era to me. The talent was better. And I actually found Dix I didn't mind Dixie as a character. I'm not saying that I actually watched the product, but I didn't get mad watching the product, which is what I've got when I've seen some of they do a lot of really goofy stuff, like when they have the Halloween night and all the wrestlers suddenly aren't their characters, but they put on Halloween costumes and forget whatever storyline we're doing. We're now just Halloween characters goofing around at Satan. They're doing TV tapings in Santino Morella's wrestling school. Anyways, WWE needs competition. Yes, there needs to be different products out there. AEW, I don't. They totally went against what they originally said they were going to be, the old school product, which is why people tuned into them in the first place. Now, if they absorb TNA, I mean, maybe NXT could be better, and the lower minor league system could be better. If Vince McMahon opens a company, m- to me, I think at least there would be another mindset of wrestling. So I don't think it would be a bad thing, and it'd be even more places to work. Maybe one of these big companies would finally be give me a shot if a third company opens up and I could make my hundreds of thousands of dollars a year after being in the business for over 20 years and having by far one of the most successful YouTube channels in wrestling and wrestling more legends than probably any independent wrestler out there today. But I would also love to see like an ECW style league pop up, which I would hope Great North Wrestling, which returns June 29th in Napanee. I would hope that would become the ECW. I hope it would evolve into it as time goes on. by the way. Napanee halfway between Ottawa and Toronto. Dixie was more fun to watch than Tony. I agree. I totally agree, Jimmy the Catholic. Dixie Carter was more fun to watch than Tony. 100%. She was good looking. Her character was more entertaining. And Tony, we just see as like this spoiled rich kid that does whatever the hell he wants and collects wrestlers and doesn't really care about wrestling other than the product he wants, doesn't think about the wrestling fans that might actually not like the style of wrestling he likes. Whereas Jimmy Corderas said the other day, um, the referee stuff going on there, which I don't even watch, but I guess some of the referee stuff in AEW is pretty horrendous that they don't even try to enforce rules. And apparently the referees like sell moves. Like, so if a wrestler's hit in the face, the referee will like grab their face as if they're feeling it. And as Jimmy Cordero says, that's all right one every so often, but like when otherwise it seems like the referee's trying to take attention away from the match. Billy Corgan is a less rich version of Tony Khan. His latest NWA champion, you could say, has been a flop. At least people, as hated as Tyrus was, people were talking about him. He was having the belt on Fox. The guy that's the champion now, that I can't even remember his name right now, there's been no buzz at all about. And I hate to say this, but there's a bunch of maybe not in the best shape people in NWA that wear very unflattering outfits. But I wish Billy Corgan luck, but it's definitely the least popular of the well-funded wrestling companies right now. Jordan Grace looks like she can break Roxanne Perez like a toothpick yesterday. There you go. Thanks for the feedback, Randy. Tony Khan is like a kid with a new toy that doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, he's good for the people that are making money. You know what's funny? Jake the Snake supposedly re-signed a contract, and I've been seeing clips of him out doing his like one-man shows everywhere. So it's like, does Tony Khan just sign these guys, then just let them go and do other stuff and not even use them? Because you'd think you would want AEW, Jake the Snake doing something on TV if he is signed to a contract, like he was supposed to be re-signed 3 months ago, but he's out on the road doing his tour. We see Moxley, who no-showed every single Canadian show that he was advertised for this year, but he's on all these New Japan shows. It's just bizarre for how much money he's paying that he doesn't even care about using them or not, which is fine. They're making their money. Yeah, a new snake pick. I don't know. I don't know if I guess if Lance Archer was like standing behind him, a new snake pick could work. But whatever. He'd rather just keep these guys hidden. I don't know why. Jake the Snake is one of the most recognizable. Ra- Jake the Snake, and this is I'm shooting here. Jake the Snake would be in the top 10% of recognizable wrestlers from AEW to mainstream fans. He would be in the top 10%. Because there's 90. I went through the AEW roster and ROH rosters last week, and I was being fairly gentle about it because I actually sympathize with the wrestlers, even though they're making a ton of money. But I sympathize with the frustrations they must be going through. But Jake is 100% in the top 10 of recognizable faces in AEW. Most of the people in AEW are not over to mainstream fans. That's just a fact. Well, let me know, you guys, if you think WWE has bought TNA or if they're just being very, very, very nice to them because they're on the Endeavor streaming service. I really don't think so. They've never been that they've always been very like strict businessmen. And technically TNA is somewhat competition to NXT too, so why Why give them any credibility? I know they're on your streaming platform, but it just there's too many signs here that a WWE version of NXTNA is imminent.